it's officially been 529 days since we started this friggin' project. Lahey's got us all working under him. He's project manager. He thinks he's the big dog. Yeah, we've just been sort of hanging out, eating our pepperoni and chicken chips, and it's been a good time.
So Lahey finally got off the liquor, and he started a business building business schools. And he asked me to go help him, and I told him to f*** off. Then he told me his budget, $100 million. Couldn't say no to that. That's Freedom 35 if I've ever seen it.
I got ready to look after my kitties back at Sunnyvale at the park. Thing is, a lot of the boys came here for this project. Julian, myself, Ricky, Randy Bobandy comes here every once in a while too. Sarah's part of the project. She's part of the site logistics of it. Even f***ing J-Rock's got a spot here too. He made a video on this thing.
Hey yo, it's J to the ROC, J-Rock here, coming straight out of Sunnyvale. Here with Ricky, Julian, Bubbles, Sarah, Randy Bobandy, Mr. Lahey, the whole gang here. Know what I'm saying? Trying to drop on ya. 100 milli about to drop on that Richard Ivey. Thanks to government, Western U, and Ivey family. We got a penthouse and a basement, even 3 floors. What's the square footage of it? It's 274. We got a hella bunch of classrooms, 78 or 50 seat. 15 and 5 of them respectively, that's kinda neat. 52 breakout, 36 staff meeting rooms. Got the mother truck and skylight so you can see the moon. The auditorium's got itself a 300-inch screen. But I can close the curtains for you know what I mean. Brock Pavilion's got a Starbucks and a whole lot of food. Got low sound study rooms for when you're not in the mood. Grant Hall's got a fireplace, Algonquin limestone. If you don't think she's pretty, get the heck off my throne. Each classroom's professor customized acoustic paneling. Got a mother trucking, ponca leather, mucking, trucking rain. Yeah, we all certified, got the lead all the way to gold. Building super insulated so I don't get too cold. Natural light from all the windows, reduce electricity, got extensive artwork, and even a few trees. This building ain't your taste, then boy you be a fool. Can't talk any longer, I'm gonna meet your mother in the jewel. Know what I'm saying?
I've been working on this project with Lahey for a while now. I gotta say, I didn't think Julian, Ricky, and Bubbles would be much help, but they put quite the effort in around here. I was in charge of the site logistics part of the construction process.
Starting off with the site access and exit. After being granted access to Brescia Road, it was important we utilize that to avoid high volume traffic. Vehicles will enter here at the site access, make their drop-off, and leave through the exit. There will be 2 cranes on site. The first crane will be located in the middle courtyard area during Phase 1. After evaluating the dimensions of the building, we're sure that the crane will reach all parts of Phase 1. The second crane won't come into account until Phase 2. This crane is in charge of reaching the west side of the building, as long as carrying the weight of the chiller for the penthouse. One problem with having Ricky, Julian, and Bubbles on site is finding a place for them to sleep. Ricky is going to live in his car in the Elborn College parking lot. Julian and Bubbles are going to take both the conference trailer and the contractor trailer. Lucky enough, there will be a garbage and sanitary area close by. The health and safety trailer is another must when it comes to these guys being on site. Up in the north end of the site, there will be a site office trailer. This trailer will be in charge of documentation for site drop-offs. Next, we move into storage space. The storage area is located in the northeast portion of the construction site. It was important that we had a lot of area for the boys storing equipment and materials. Heck, we needed 6 storage containers to store everything on site. Along with that, there will be 2 laydown areas. Both will be utilized in Phase 1, and then just the one on the east side of the building will be utilized when Phase 2 rolls around. There will also be shoring and covered hoarding. Shoring is needed because the Ivey building will be built on moist ground, so it's important to prevent the movement of soil. There will also be pre-existing sidewalks on both Western Road and Brescia Road, so it's important that covered hoarding is used to protect the students.
I'll admit it, I'm just here for the paycheck. I'm a businessman. If I want to get a hold of that $100 million one day, I'm going to have to learn a thing or two from Lahey. Basically, he got me to do the work breakdown structure, and it's basically a really small skeleton of the entire project. Hopefully you can read it very well. So here's the work breakdown structure for the Richard Ivey building. We have it split up into 7 key milestones, and they are project management, pre-excavation, building substructure, building superstructure, interior finishes, commissioning, and final completion. And to start off with project management, they're basically in charge of curating like general conditions or specifications with regards to the construction. They organize and send out shop drawings for construction and initiate all scope work. And then we have pre-excavation, and these are all tasks that are required to begin the project prior to any excavation or any major activity. And this could include utility locates, site grading, and site mobilization. And then we have the building substructure, and this is basically like the base of the building, and it includes all elements that like won't be seen to the public, such as things like shoring, excavation, foundations, and waterproofing. And then we have the building superstructure, and this is probably like one of the largest milestones we have, and it just contains all the integral systems found in any building. And with regards to the Ivey building, we have steel erection, concrete, masonry, roofing, elevators, mechanical, and electrical. And we've also further split up mechanical into HVAC, fire protection, plumbing, and drainage. And then with electrical, we split up into power, lighting, fire alarm, integrated automation, and CCTV. And these are like just like the main systems that we found that were predominant in our design. And then we also have interior finishes, which includes all the tasks required to mainly architecturally get the building complete, whereas where superstructures was like essential systems, interior finishes is more like architectural stuff where it's not essential for the building to be working, but it's more like make it look nice and a little more serviceable. And some systems under interior finishes include flooring, ceiling, walls, carpentry, windows and doors, and then signage. And we move over to commissioning, and this just includes rigorous inspection, which tests and reviews all the systems in the building to ensure that they work perfectly for public use. And then the 3 major systems that we found were mechanical, electrical, and elevators. And then now we go into final completion, which includes substantial completion, which generally occurs right after the commissioning. We have deficiency correction and final cleanup, final inspections, and request for payment. And that's a little wrap up of our work breakdown schedule.
When I first took this job, I thought I'd just be sitting around all day having smokes and eating pepperoni. But then I get here and project manager Lahey's telling me I gotta do all this fancy stuff like build a project schedule. I'll admit, I did a pretty good job. Look at this. We got all of our breakdowns in here. Good to go. The construction sequencing was broken down into 2 main phases, each corresponding to one half of the building. Each phase follows a similar path that corresponds with the work breakdown structure. This consists of 7 main milestones which break down into many sub-milestones. It starts with project management, which covers the administrative work that needs to happen before boots can hit the ground. This is followed by pre-excavation, which includes installing temporary utilities and prepping site trailers. Then comes site grading and leveling. After this, excavation can commence. Once the ground is set, the building substructure can start being built. All concrete is poured in a checkered pattern. Columns will be poured first, splitting into 5 separate sections to allow for plenty of time for each section to cure. Concrete beams are poured using the same method, followed by joists and then slabs and finally walls. The pouring and curing process is then repeated for the 2nd and 3rd floor. After all concrete has been poured and cured, the 4th milestone can commence, this being the building superstructure. This milestone covers the largest amount of sub-milestones, including steel erection, masonry, roofing, elevators, and all the mechanical and electrical work. The first section of the building superstructure is steel erection. The steel will follow the same erection sequence of concrete, starting with columns, then beams, joists, and then finally flooring. Masonry will consist of stone wall installation and the stone flooring. Roofing will include beams, joists, deck, and waterproofing. Elevators will also be installed during this time. At this point, mechanical will then take over the construction site, starting with HVAC. Piping and ventilation will be installed on each floor. The next mechanical subset will be plumbing, which will include both installing the interior plumbing on each floor, as well as the plumbing associated with the rainwater collection system. Electrical will then come in to install wiring as well as lighting, fire alarm systems, and CCTV systems. This will conclude the building superstructure and will allow the project to move on to interior finishes. The fifth milestone of the project. Carpentry and masonry will kick off the finishes with wood and stone floor finishing. This will also include installing Italian marble finish. Installing ceiling tiles and wood beam finish will come next. Wall finish will be placed along the wood railings and stair finishes. The final finishes will be doors and windows. This will conclude phase 1 of the project, and phase 2 will be able to commence. Phase 2 will be the same as phase 1. Final completion will then take place through deficiency correction and the final cleanup. The final cleanup will take a top-down approach, starting at the 3rd floor and moving down towards the basement. Demobilization will then be able to commence, and we'll see the removal of the crane and site trailers, and finally the project will be completed.
A few months ago, the Ivey Business boys told me to get my stuff together and I had to get it done 3 weeks early. I thought they were crazy, but then they put $8 million in front of me and it was an offer I couldn't refuse.
Mr. Lahey, how's it going?
Boys, we gotta finish 3 weeks early.
What?
What are you talking about? We just finished the steel and concrete.
That's when I realized that I still had Ricky, Julian, and Bubbles out there running the circus. Sarah told me that they've been doing alright, but I know Julian's just out there to get a hold of my dough.
I know, but I'm telling you right now, they're gonna give us $8 million.
$8 million? Say no more. This is us.
$8 million to do it.
Anyways, I had to plan my finances out very wisely so that I didn't have another blizzard cause like the last job.
Do you know what we can do with $8 million?
We can retire off that Freedom 35.
Exactly.
That's a lot of chicken fingers.
Okay, come here. Let me show you this.
So initially, if the project were to be running as normal, heading towards the expected completion date, we would start off fairly slow with site mobilization, site excavation, site grading, and then moving on to the concrete formwork and the structural steel for phase 1 of the Ivey building. And then once we're done with the concrete and structural steel for the phase 1, we can start with a lot more of the specialties in terms of electrical, mechanical, moving on to gypsum board, masonry, millwork. And then once we get into phase 2, then we can start doing with more of the structural concrete and steel again. And that's why it's kind of a constant curve from this point forward with all the specialties. And then at the end, once we're finishing up phase 2 and phase 1 is basically done completion, and we're just going into this is the tiny things like signage, maybe finishing up painting, flooring, hanging up artwork, just some specialties. In phase 2, there's going to be a little bit of a decrease in money injected into the project per month because there's just not as much work to be done, less people to be paid. And at the end, there's a pickup of a larger injection just because then we're releasing that money that we held on to most of the specialties just in case we needed them to come back. For example, if paint were to chip or if there were to be a hole in the gypsum board that we needed to be patched. So then once we're sure that the project is completed and we don't need those specialties anymore, then we will release that final amount of cash to them. Conversely, if you look at the S-curve for our constraint, which is a project finishing 3 weeks in advance, but the owner is giving us an extra $8 million to do it. So we're not told of this constraint until after the structural steel and concrete formwork is finished. So it's going to be the exact same thing for the S-curve in the beginning with the same mobilization, excavation, grading, concrete, structural steel, start with the mechanical, and then once we get past phase 2, the concrete and structural steel, and then we're like aware of this constraint, that's when the $8 million is injected into all of the rest of the specialties that are left in order for them to finish earlier. And that's going to be involved with paying some people overtime and then also just hiring on extra crews. So money will be divvied up into flooring to finish the flooring earlier, get more manpower there, to the gypsum board, get more manpower there, to maybe getting the electrician and the mechanic to work a little bit longer hours to make sure that that's finished 3 weeks in advance. And then at the end, again, there's a bit of a plateau because most of the disciplines are going to be finished, and then there's just like the little extra nitty-gritty stuff that needs to be completed for site completion, again, like the signage. And then at the very, very end, there's an injection of cash, again, just due to site demobilization as well as releasing that money back to the disciplines that we held on to ourselves in case we did need them to come back and help with anything.